This is our gaming room for D&D and MTG and a lot of other tabletop games too, but for me it's all about Dungeons and Dragons. It started a long time ago at my friend's house, where we used to play on the kitchen table like so many people do. He had the idea that maybe we could play in the garage. Maybe we could build a special table for playing D&D in the garage. And that's where everything started, with the table. We decided to make the table big because sometimes we have a lot of players at the table, or sometimes we want to run big epic battles. With all the space that we had in the garage, that was something that we could do. We kept it simple so that our games would run smoothly. We opted for a 4x8 foot whiteboard with a 1-inch grid on it. This way, players and the DM both can use dry erase markers right on the table. So the DM can draw out an encounter or draw new effects out on the map like fire or a river going through or a grease spell, anything. And players can track their hit points or special abilities or just simply make notes right there on the table. Using markers like this really helps the game flow easily. And it also means that anyone can DM. They don't need to have a laptop or the right program or anything. They just need to stand up, grab a marker, and draw out a scenario. I have a few pictures to share of the construction of the table, but as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. I wanted it to have a lot of legroom, so I built it with a central base instead of 4 legs. This way, players can sit anywhere around the table without bumping into anything. I added some embellishments and then heavily applied my favorite red stain to it. I added some antique brass pins just to dress it up a little. All around the table, I cut out some slots where you can put in matching wooden slabs. On these slabs, you can put your paper, pencils, drink, whatever you want. If we're short on table space, players can rely on these. If you want them out of your way, no problem. You pull out the slab and they're gone. In all the corners of the table, I installed these power cubes. This way, players have easy access to power for any laptops or charge their phones or anything else they might want. So while having a screen for a gaming surface and LED lighting and a dark atmosphere can be exciting and cool, our group puts in some really long sessions, sometimes more than 12 hours. So we prefer an efficient setup that is well lit, and often we leave the garage door open so it's well ventilated as well. This table has served us for years, and it can handle anything. It's seen countless games of D&D, Magic, many other board games. It can handle massive encounters. It can also handle quick, easy encounters. It can handle 10 to 12 players, huge Twilight Imperium games, mildly offensive words, karaoke nights, Josh, belligerent players. This table is the crux of our gaming setup. To go around the table, I also built some small stands. On these stands, players can put papers or dice or pencils or anything they want. These stands have a reference sheet on them that you may have noticed on the slabs as well. These reference sheets just have weights and rules for equipment and most importantly prices, so when players are shopping or looting, they can handle a lot of the math themselves without having to rely on each other or the DM. At some point I found this podium at a garage sale. I can put my laptop on it, and inside the shelves I can stash tokens, status effects, tape measures, minis, campaign notes, and anything else I think needs to go in there. I often like to use the podium to make a big reveal. I do this by hiding minis in it, which also makes things faster and keeps the game moving. On to the mini racks. I used to lug around a couple cases full of minis, but as our collection grew, so did our storage. I built this rack with a wire shelving placed at an angle, so when the minis are put on it, you can see them easily at a glance. It started with 1 and eventually became 3. I painted them and then most importantly, added labels. I try to keep all the minis numbered, so if you need an encounter with 12 goblins and 7 spiders, it should be pretty easy to turn around in your DM chair, find them in the racks, grab them, put them on the table. Having minis numbered like this really helps me track their initiative, especially if it's a random encounter I didn't prepare for. Sometimes I even use their number as their initiative. This one, I'll call the trouble case. We have a much more vulgar name for it that I won't bother to repeat. But when the DM stands up and heads over to this case, you know your party's in trouble. This is where all the minis that are too big to fit in the regular racks go. Minis that are even bigger go on top of the trouble case, or over here on this other shelf. I put up 5 small shelves to put all of the chromatic dragons on. So as you can see, I've got wormling size all the way up to large or maybe even huge size dragons. Over here on the other side, I've done the same thing for various giants. Now, even though it's really easy to use dry erase markers on the table, there's a lot of beautiful battle mats out there as well. I built a section over here for ours, and most of them are labeled. So you can grab one, pull it straight out. If it looks like what you want, set it on the table and begin your encounter. I know that I, as a player, really like to have terrain on the table as it adds to the strategy and the immersion of an encounter. Over in the corner, I built the set of shelves to hold all of our terrain. We've got ruins and fences and buildings and trees, lots of things. It's pretty easy for the DM to head over to the shelf, grab some buildings or some trees or whatever it is they need, and enhance the encounter with it. I mounted a TV up behind the DM chair. Whenever I'm DMing, I usually use it to show maps of Atlundia, but any DM can easily connect to it to show whatever maps or environments or monsters that they want to show the players. I also set up a sound bar, and I have playlists where I can switch between ambiance, travel music, or combat music. We get a lot of use out of the TV and sound bar, whether we're just hanging out or cleaning or painting minis, having any kind of gathering or playing any kind of game. Over here I built a really handy character locker. I built a case out of a couple of boards and attached a large picture frame to it with some hinges. I painted it some nice colors and mounted it up on the wall. Players can leave their character sheets, minis, mounts, dice, tokens, journals, spell books, etc., whatever they want in here. This way it's all kept together in one place, so they don't have to run around hunting for everything before the game starts. Directly under that is a collection of dice that anyone can use. Within arm's reach of the DM is this dice chest, crit cards, markers, erasers, and tokens. Since I don't like to use a DM screen, when I'm DMing, I roll dice in this little chest that I built. I cut a hole in the lid, painted it the right color, and added a layer of felt inside. It became apparent that we were going to need a filing cabinet. In here, we keep player binders and notes and semi-active characters and campaigns. We also keep any reusable references like dungeons, encounters, monsters, spell lists, anything that's been printed off and could be used again. We also keep our many Fun Shots characters in here, as well as our old retired heroes, just in case they're once again called to adventure. Over in the corner, we've got some essentials: paper, printer, Keurig machine. Underneath, cans for garbage and bottles. On the other side of the room, the obligatory mini fridge. And the floor. You can probably see that at some point I upgraded the floor, but I'm still traumatized by it and I don't really want to talk about it. I tried painting it and it was an absolute disaster. After 3 days of scraping and cleaning, I ended up doing water-based concrete stains and it turned out much better. Okay, let's move on. We had some random bookshelves for a long time until I was inspired to build a unique bookshelf that would be a good fit for our game room. I built it with odd-shaped shelves and gave it the same red stain and brass antique pins that I had used on the table. As soon as Mark was able to figure out how to use it, we loaded it up with our entire collection of 3.5 books and books from other games as well. For a couple of years, I would buy or build interesting knickknacks to put on it until it was pretty full. The bookshelf is largely decorative, but these books do see regular use. A fireplace might have been a little overboard, but with all the work I've put in this place, I feel it was appropriate. I built a wooden frame and then mounted an electric fireplace in it. I paved it from top to bottom with styrofoam stones, and then found a giant red dragon head from WizKids and mounted it up there like a trophy. It's definitely a nice feature of the room, but it does actually help keep us warm during the winter. I really like keeping the legacy of characters and campaigns alive. To memorialize our longest running campaigns, that is, ones that last for over a year and reach something like level 12 or higher, I build these little boxes to enshrine the heroes in. We also commission art of some of our characters to put up on the wall. Every so often, we get together for a day to paint minis, especially if we can't get a game running. We keep the unpainted minis stashed over there, and I built this easel type of thing to hold all of our paints and brushes and small crafting tools to keep them organized and at the ready. Painting minis is another one of my hobbies, and having a game room like this to paint minis in is really nice and a little inspiring. I added an old watercolor painted version of Atlundia over here on the door. It's decorative, but it sees some use when there isn't an updated map available. There is almost nothing in here without a purpose. If you're building a game room and you care what I think, I'd really recommend keeping function and efficiency at the forefront of your design. Going overboard with technology and decorations and atmosphere and bells and whistles might cause you more trouble in the long run than it's worth. Well, I hope you liked this video, and I hope you feel inspired. We'll see ya.